Breakfast with Bob.
Hey everybody, Bob Babbitt here again, another edition of Breakfast with Bob. We are brought to you by the PTO, the Pro Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, VeloFix, Normatec, Form Goggles, UCAN, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest is the CEO of Challenge North America, Mr. Bill Christie. Bill, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, my friend. How about you?
I am awesome. So you're staying safe through all this? I've heard you're riding the hell out of the Zwift.
We are. If I can get it away from my stepson, I'm in pretty good shape between he and his significant other. So we're wrestling for the smart trainer, but I think I got him now. I've got a new strategy.
So I came down to Challenge Daytona this year, and so I did our breakfast show from there and was just blown away, one, by the facility. I'd never been there to Daytona. You've been involved with Daytona for forever, right?
You know, I'm lucky enough that my bride, as you know, Lisa, is when I came into racing, to be able to have Ben in my life, Lisa's son, who was at that point a race car driver, right? Raced very competitively all the way through the Xfinity Series, and now an executive vice president with NASCAR. Every time I had a question, I could call Ben or send him a text saying, "Hey, what does this mean?" So yeah, I've been lucky enough to been around a while, and love the sport, love the people, and what a magnificent sport. 30 million people a weekend watching, 136 countries. Yeah, it's neat for sure.
So you've merged two pretty amazing concepts. One is a facility like Daytona with this beautiful track that's totally protected. And then the sport of triathlon. When did you get into triathlon, and when did the light bulb go off where you said, how about doing a triathlon right here at the racetrack?
So kind of a fun story. And again, it goes back to my stepson, Ben. Ben was on his way to move to Charlotte to be with his race team. And as a means to keep us all connected, Ben said, "Hey, let's do a sprint." This was late 2014. And so we did a sprint together. Lisa swam. I biked. Ben ran. Every time we race together, we've got a great story. That one, Lisa hit the water. She did a swan dive. She's a beautiful swimmer. And the 6'2" guy was running next to her in the water. She was swimming. And she hit the first buoy, well-timed, got wrapped up in the rope, thought it was a snake, blew a head gasket, got out of the water. I wrecked on the bike. Ben got passed by a 65-year-old on the run. And, it was just, we were hooked. We started racing individually together after that, but always raced together, the three of us. And now my daughters both run, and they're getting more excited about doing relays this year. Daytona was really Daytona. We tell people Daytona is an athlete's race. It's a race for athletes by athletes. And so Charlie Leidecker, who's Rowdy Gaines world champion partner in swimming. I think he did the Alcatraz Swim Classic at 51 years of age and won. Charlie looked at me and Ben one day and he said, wouldn't it be great if we swam in Lake Lloyd? I don't think anybody's ever done it before. Like a distance swim. And Ben said, maybe we ought to do a triathlon here. And I said, okay. I said, let's think about this. And the next thing you know, it got bigger than we were. At that point, we were traveling all over the world, vacationing and racing, how lucky are we? And we were to race, and racking and racing is we wanted more. We wanted family events. We wanted a place to take a shower. We wanted a hotel close by. We wanted good food close by because we're foodies. And I don't care if it's a taco or a hot dog. And you well know that hot dogs are a big thing at NASCAR. I think Bill Jr.'s hot dog, I think you went over to the stand and had to make one his way. So we said, we can do this. And we can do it inside the Speedway. And we can do it in a venue that's got showers and food and, so many things that you don't have. We did a beer garden this year, which was a pretty big hit.
Yeah.
And a wine garden that was a big hit. So that was sort of the genesis of it. And meeting the guys at Challenge family just sort of took it to another level for us.
So then 2 years ago, you've got your pro event ready to happen, and it's pouring rain. And originally the distances were going to be longer, but because of the rain, it was like, listen, let's cut the distances down and let's keep the whole bike ride on the racetrack. And that was brilliant, right? It turned out the entirety of the race was on the racetrack, and the pros loved it. Did that surprise you?
First and foremost, you have to give credit to the pros whose idea it was.
Yeah.
So Sarah, Meredith, and Alicia approached me and said, hey, they said, we're not crazy about the weather. We're not sure we want to be out there. Can we just go to a run? And I said, guys, please understand, we've got a weatherman in the tower tied to 6 Dopplers around the state. We know exactly what cell we've been watching since 4 o'clock this morning. If it tracks outside of the cone, we're racing. And at that point, Dylan McNeese came over with Starkey and said, why don't we do the whole thing inside? So now you've got a discussion going on. Hemrick joined in and said, okay, what's the distance going to be? So now you've got a negotiation between 6 pros as to what's going to be a fair distance. And they created the Daytona distance. And they said, well, Starkey, you can't have the bike that long without the ability for us to chase you down, run you down on the run. And Meredith was very, very assertive about that. So they came up with a balance for both the swim, the bike, and the run. We put them on a 2-lap swim to try and give the spectators a chance to be able to connect with their favorite pro. And it was an in and out for 800 meters. The bike was about 35 and change, I believe. Don't hold me to that. And the run was about 8.4. So it was a creation of them, by them, for them that stuck. And they named it the Daytona distance. So I'd like to say that I was in any way, shape, involved in that. I was more or less trying to keep them from killing each other while negotiating the distances.
So this year, and I was there in 2019, it was awesome. And had, basically almost a sprint finish between Lionel winning the race, the last part, and the women's race was side by side. It was classic under lights, finishing on the track. I mean, you couldn't have had anything better, right? So this year, and you're always one of those guys who's thinking, okay, this is good. Now I want to get better. This year on December 6th, you are going to be having a $1 million prize purse. And this will be the Challenge North American World Championships. That is like, especially right now when everybody's like, will racing ever come back? To see that you guys are going, hey, we're confident, world's going to get better. And December 6th, we're going to put $1 million on the line down here at Daytona Speedway for the greatest athletes in the world, our pros.
Again, this was a joint effort by Rocky at USAT and Sam and Charles at PTO with ZB and the Challenge family, where we all sat back and said, we've got to unify. We've got to come together. We've got an opportunity to do that in December. And the PTO stepped up and said, hey, here's, we'll commit the $1 million purse. They're going to pay on a towering decline with a deep number being paid. But the thing I think that I'm the most pleased with was everybody has said, this is our chance. This is our chance to show the world, be confident. Endurance sport is here and we're a family and come join us. So we're really excited about the PTO Championship race for the pros. It's going to be about 100K, all inside the bowl. We did a couple of things this year that we didn't do last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were the one who said, "Hey, can we have the jumbotron?"
Gotta have a jumbotron.
I'm here to tell you, this year you get the jumbotron, and
Sweet.
a big part of that is that, as you remember last year's race, the foot race that happened between Pablo and Lionel was on that last back stretch. And while we had great photographs of it, boy, it would have been nice to have seen Pablo surge those 6 times before Lionel said, not going to happen a 7th time. But probably my favorite memory of that entire race was watching Lucy and 2 ITU racers going at it step for step. And watching Lionel pull off the ground the number 2, 3, 4, and 5 athletes off the ground who were all at the finish line, totally collapsed because they left it all out on the course. You were right there. You and I talked about it. It was an amazing sight, and I couldn't have been more excited.
So what was it about? I mean, you've worked with professional athletes, right? With the NASCAR racers forever, and you've got motorcycle guys. You've seen a lot of pro athletes. What was it about the professional triathletes that moved you so much to? Because you could be putting on an age group race at Daytona Speedway, which obviously you are, but you're making a major investment in the pros. Why the professional triathletes?
One of the things that I promised myself when we did this whole thing was I was a poor professional as a water skier. So I was sponsored by Nautique and a ski company. And our sport, relatively speaking, died because the pros never knew their fans. And in this instance, it's the age groupers. And so when the pros started coming to Daytona, Chip Weil, president of Daytona International Speedway, and I made a promise that said, let us teach you how to be and how to engage like NASCAR drivers who are very successful, make a good living, are good and have the ability to provide for their families. And as I look at endurance sports and endurance athletes, the economics weren't there to support them. By contrast. So we made a conscious decision, and I'd really like to tell you that we were coming up with some spectacular ideas, but we weren't. NASCAR does a phenomenal job with their athletes, and we just transitioned many of those ideas over. So that was really the genesis of why we wanted to do. We saw these people. They are magnificent people. They're family people. They're family oriented. They bring their kids to the races. I had more fun when Meredith crossed the line 2 years ago. I had Mac in my arms, and he's a cutie, and I wasn't going to give him up. This year, it was me and Starkey's daughter handing out finisher medals, and she was very specific about who she wanted to hand medals to, by the way. She is, and she is a huge NASCAR fan. Joey Logano, if Joey Logano's on TV or he's at a race, she's attached to his leg. So we really believe that by engaging the fan base to the pros themselves, that we start that connection and we build that credibility, and through that build economics for the pros, because they are just amazing people,
I couldn't agree with you more. Basically, everything behind me in my little trophy cases, the professional triathletes from years and years and years. So when you've got your pro race with $1 million, but it's a festival. Talk to me a little bit about what else is going to be happening that weekend.
Well, probably one of my favorites was, we do a relay. So we do a pro-am relay. And so as a function of bidding for charity for the NASCAR Foundation, you had a chance to bid to be on a team with one of the pros. So example, if you wanted to race with Lionel, if you wanted to race with my pick, by the way, for my team was Karen Linders, because I knew he was a fish. And we needed somebody strong to replace Tony Dodds for us and to take out Dylan McNeese. So I bid on Karen, and Karen at that point isn't a super big name, and everybody had a chance to bid to be a cyclist or a runner with a pro. And the pros, I got some phone calls about how competitive is it going to be, and is it going to be this? I said, guys, it's going to be fun. Have a good time. Certain people pulled other swimmers under the water. The pros all swam, and it was a pretty good time. And it was probably the most money raised, I think, was Laura Siddall, who raised a great amount of money, and she did it by putting herself on a tricycle and saying, I might not be the fastest in the water, but this is, behind her, this is all the kit that you get that my sponsors are going to provide for you. And she raised about the most money. So it was a great interaction with the Pro-Am. We loved that. They all walked into the briefing to announce their teams. They all came up with great names for their teams. So that's one of the events. We've got a 5K event run, a 10K event run. We've got challenge
race. You have a middle distance age group race.
There's an age group race. So there's a sprint race, a sprint relay, an aquathon, a duathlon, a 70.3 mile race, so a mid-distance race, and with relays as well. You were on that relay team. I think you guys had a pretty good time.
Yeah, I had ZB riding the bike, who obviously a lot of work time on the bike, because that guy, I think he was like right around 2 hours for 56 miles. I'm like, dude, you're not in the office at that.
207. He's pretty proud of that. He should. He took out Lucas. Lucas was 213, and they're big cycling buddies.
Yes.
Lucas is probably 15 years younger than ZB. So there was a lot of smack talk going back and forth over that one.
And with that middle distance race, the top 6 male and female finishers in each age group qualify for the championship in Sommerend next May.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so they all received the golden ticket, which was, we wanted them to have a memento of winning and being on the podium with something special to get them into Samron and into that world championship. So we actually gave them a 3x5 golden ticket that said, I qualified for the championship at Challenge Daytona. And you were there. Those things were not small, and they were not light, but they were coveted for a good reason. There was the number of people that came off that course that said that was the fastest course they'd ever been on. Personal best, my buddy Hugh Driscoll, maybe a shout out to Hugh. Hugh raced a 5:48, which was his best by 43 minutes. So, and the number of people who walked away, it was great. So it was a great weekend. I wished I had spent more time in the beer garden.
So again, $1 million prize purse for North American Championships. This is it has to be the largest prize purse in one day, right? For the sport of triathlon in history. I can't imagine.
If you and Peter don't know the answer to that, I have to believe it's true.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And as you know, today we've got the Zoom announcement with a bunch of the pros on it. And Heather Jackson's going to talk specifically about what that means to this sport. And Sebastian's going to be there. Starkey's going to be there to talk about Daytona and NASCAR. Meredith's going to be there to talk about the safety measures we go through on the course and why we do what we do. Who else is going to be there with us? I'm missing somebody.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm missing. Oh, ZB will be there. Sam will be there from PTO. We're excited about both those guys being there as well. So, Lionel and Tim O'Donnell will be there as well.
Very cool. When you first met the guys, when you met Charles from PTO and explained Pro Triathletes organization, this is what we want to do. what were your thoughts? And now that you've seen it come to fruition, is it what you thought it would be?
First and foremost, I was excited to see somebody's enthusiasm around doing for the pros and creating an environment where their best interest, besides being out there and racing and creating a show, was taken into account. So the term that we hear routinely is that our interests were aligned because we both believed in the same thing. For what they have created in the timeline they have created it, with Sam and with Charles for quite a few years putting this together, is impressive to me. But what they stand for is far more impressive than the time it took to do it. I am encouraged. I am excited, and I'm proud of those guys. They came to us, and I remember we sat in the motor coach, and Charles and Sam said, "This is who we are, and this is what we want to do, and we'd like to figure out a way for us all to come together, and we think that this is a great combination." And I said, "Absolutely great combination." And as we were working towards that this year with the pandemic hitting, USAT jumped in, and so now you've got a triad of folks all wanting the same thing. We want to provide for the endurance. We want to the endurance sport. We want to provide for the pros, but more importantly, we want to give some hope with a December date that we can come together. And we'll do what we have to do. Sebastian talked about social distancing. Sebastian talked about time trialing, which, as you know, we do a rolling start for the age groupers anyhow. And that's really a function of optimizing time and safety in the water. But Sebastian's idea was, hey, if we have social distance and time trial, it's not like we don't have the facility to do it. We can wrap people all the way around the lake.
Plenty of room.
Yeah.
So when I hear Challenge North America and you're CEO of Challenge North America, there's one event. Are you seeing growth that you're going to be going to other places? You knew this was coming.
Of course, I knew this was coming, right? Right.
Yeah, so, you didn't go to school at your lunch. You've got one event. There's a lot of NASCAR tracks around. A few of them have lakes in there. I mean, I'm guessing there's something there.
I promise you the answer to that question is yes. And I promise you that we will have another podcast discussion because I want you to have the full experience of where it is and why it is.
Okay.
But it is a beautiful place. I will say it is my favorite track. And there's a host of reasons why. So we're excited about that. That announcement's going to come probably at the end of June.
Okay.
As we work through some things. But that's one. We're going to do a short course at the beginning of the season as well. So those are three. And we're going to announce those quick. And I promise you we'll announce them here. But yeah.
Okay.
I knew you were coming after that.
Exclusive. Okay. I just want my first dibs. I
respect that. I do.
And I got to tell you, so we were down there. My producer John Gifford and I were down there for the Challenge Daytona, which was spectacular. And then you were kind enough to invite us back for the Daytona 500, and I've never seen anything like that. Even with rain out, who cares? There was racing day after day. It gave me a sense of what your vision is for triathlon, because it was the people walking through the pits. It was the championship rings. It's a 3-ring circus. It's just so much fun. That's your vision, right?
Right. Yeah. There's no question. It's exactly what the vision is. We want to create a family environment where the kids are hanging on Joey Logano's leg, where we walked into Jimmy Johnson's. Jimmy was gracious enough. We walked into Jimmy's trailer and we sat in there for a while and ate his cookies. And that's not unusual for the fans to be engaged like that. Yeah, it's competition is such a neat thing to watch why and how they build those cars and what they do to test them to make sure they're within specification. I see that coming with bicycles and equipment soon. Definitely seeing the pros set up their transitions and having age groupers saying, "Why do you do what you do? Why is this that way?" So yeah, we want to take all those ideas and transcend them. I'm not a rocket scientist. I think that fits perfectly into what we're trying to do. And oh, by the way, I think I sent you guys the picture of you signing the start-finish line. That's a big tradition.
You'll be doing that with this too, I'm guessing. Yes,
that's correct.
Hey, so again, this is going to be the Pro 100K World Championships coming up December 6, 2020, right there at Challenge Daytona. The CEO of Challenge North America, Mr. Bill Christie, has joined us. And thank you, Bill, for taking time and for announcing this here. This is amazing. We're talking a $1 million prize purse at Challenge Daytona next December 6th. I bet you'll enjoy writing those checks.
You know, I couldn't think of a better way to do it. And God bless PTO and God bless USAT for jumping in there with us to make this what we think is going to be a big deal. And you get your Jumbotron. So
I like my Jumbotron. That is it, which is great because then all the age groupers can hang out and be in the infield and watch what's going on the big screen and really get a feel for what's happening. It's going to be, you know, every year you make it better and better and better. And adding $1 million is you sort of jump started things here.
Well, again, thanks to PTO and USAT because we couldn't have done it without them. So we're excited. We look forward to having you back. I think I got a relay team picked out for you, but you're going to have to sign off on it. We look forward to having you back.
And I'll actually plan to swim a little bit beforehand. So hopefully I can swim a little faster next year. Last year I really hadn't done any swimming at all. Again, we're brought to you by PTO, Pro Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, by VeloFix, by Normatech, Form Goggles, UCAN, our Challenged Athletes Foundation, and our guest has been Bill Christie. This is Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Bill, you are the best. Thanks everybody.